Welcome everybody to Subpar Sunday. You're with the Hophead Connisaur along with my co-star Coney there. Today is the 11th installment of Subpar Sunday where we review a crappy domestic beer. If you've been following the channel here, you've been seeing some great lagers. No. I mean, great lagers back in the day probably, but you're seeing some lagers being tasted here on the show. And you're seeing my initial reactions to beers that I may have drank in the past or I may have not. So anyway, these are just domestic beers that have been around for a long time, and that's been what people have been used to. And now that craft beer industry has taken off, I think I saw something where there's over 8,000 breweries in the United States now. It might be more than that. It might be less than that. I'm not too sure. But what I saw was over 8,000 breweries in the United States for craft beer. That's a lot of breweries. That's a lot of craft beer and a lot of different styles. And the thing about with these, when I say crappy domestics, there's not much difference between the style. The color, maybe a little bit of flavor profile, but for every week that we've done this, if you look at what it is, it's almost the same beer. The same look, the same carbonation. Some beers have different, more carbonation than other beers do. But for the most part, yeah, they're just the same beers week to week. So anyway, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, give me a subscription, sign up, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down after you watch the video. Leave a comment. I'm always good on replying to the comments. I always look forward to seeing what people comment on and what they might suggest and stuff like that. So what are we going to be doing today? Well, if you've been watching the show, we've been doing a lot of beers from Anheuser-Busch. Well, you got to figure way back in the day and still today, they control a lot of the domestic market. So, of course, when you have a big brewer like that, they can produce a lot of different beers, and a lot of these beers have been around for years. So the funny thing about some of these beers is I remember the commercials as a kid because, that's how they sold beer back in the day. That's how they sold it to the consumer. They would have these, elaborate commercials or, it's crazy on what some of these commercials were. It's like today's beer. It just went back this morning and I was looking at some of the old videos or the old commercials, and I was like, wow, yep, I remember those commercials. And it was a selling point. They would tell you, this beer has got this in it. This beer tastes like this. Well, my reviews on the beers that I've been drinking here for the last 10 Subpar Sundays, it just tastes like flavored sugar water, with a little bit of a barley malt flavor to it, and that's about it. Nothing much. Low ABV beers. Most of them have been around about 4%, maybe up to 5%. The ice beers have been a little bit higher, anywhere from about mid to upper fives, pushing close to 6. So maybe we'll see a ice beer over 6%. So we'll see that eventually. But anyway, today's beer review is going to be on what? What are we going to be talking about today? Well, let's go with Natty Light. Yeah, this beer has been around since 1977. It says right there. Yep, it says it right there on that label right there. So as you can see there, it's been around since 1977. This beer here, as you can tell, is another, what logo is that? Anheuser-Busch beer, right? Which we know Anheuser-Busch got bought out by or sold to InBev. So anyway, this is an Anheuser-Busch beer. And if you've been watching the show, we've been doing a lot of Anheuser-Busch beers. Again, they control a lot of the market there for having a lot of beers out there. So Natty Light, 4.2% light lager. Okay. Let's add some names to it here to make it sound even better. It's a light lager, 95 calories. Okay. If you're familiar with Natural Light, there's a lot of terms that goes by. You got Natty, that's the biggest one, Natty Light or Natty Ice. It's just the term that people have given it over the years. But it was funny. It's like watching the old commercials on YouTube this morning of just like the selling point on how good this beer is, because it's natural ingredients in here. Okay, they don't add anything else into it. It's just natural ingredients, so that's why it's called Natural Light. Natural. I mean, okay, back in the day before craft beers came around, it was a selling point. It was a selling point to get you out there and drink these domestic beers. And now that I've turned into a craft beer snob, I guess you could call me a snob a little bit. Domestics are not in my future anymore. Maybe when I get to that age of where, craft beer isn't going to, be anything for me anymore. I don't think I see that happening. Then, maybe I'll switch back to domestics. I don't think so. But a good point about when we cracked this thing open and poured in here with a friend that I sat down and had a beer with the other day. And Coney's like eyeballing me again here. So I think he's still a little hurt from not this past Friday, but the Friday before of leaving him at home. So still eyeballing me here. But anyway, when I crack this open, we pour this into I call it my hillbilly glass. Like, why? But I mean, I guess it's entertaining. I'm using it as entertainment to drink out of this thing. So we're going to crack open Natural Light here, or Natty Light. Okay, 4.2% lager. Let's go see how this color is going to look. From the commercial that I saw on YouTube, this thing was like really clear. So we'll see. Oh, yeah. Gosh. I think that's a little bit lighter. Hey, maybe that's why it's a Natural Light. Oh my gosh. Look at that. Yeah. I mean, that is very light tint. A very light tint. So had a beer the other day with a friend of mine, and he brought up a good point about when we drank these domestic beers back in the day and how I do things on the show here. I pour it into a glass so we can at least see what it looks like, right? But honestly, and we've all done this, how many of us really poured it into a glass to drink out of? You probably didn't. Unless you went to the bar and you got a frosted mug, which was the cool thing. You got your beer in a frosted mug, or they'd bring you a frosted glass out to pour your beer into if you asked for a glass. But probably 9 times out of 10, most people drank it out of the bottle or they drank it out of the can. And that's, the commercials, they show you, being poured into a glass. But most of the other times you see commercials, everybody's standing around drinking a bottle. Everybody's standing around drinking a can of something. So, it's kind of ironic. Like, we don't pay attention to the carbonation levels. Wow, look at that. That thing got my glass all steamed up, huh? Fogged up. Anyway, let's wipe this off here so we can see this better. But you see, we don't pay attention to the carbonation. This thing's got a lot of carbonation to it, doesn't it? So you know what that's going to mean for my chugging skills today. No bueno. But look at that. I mean, just look at that carbonation. And we don't think about that when we drink out of a bottle or out of a can. We're just drinking it just to drink the beer. So it was a good point that he brought up. I was like, I never thought about that. But wow, I just cannot get over the way that looks. Jeez. I know somebody who's made a comment in the past. You know what that looks like. So let's see how this thing tastes. But first, gotta. Smells like bread. That's what it smells like. I got a loaf of Wonder Bread out there in the kitchen, and that's what it smells like. Oh, here we go. All right. To Natural Light, to Natty Light, however you want to call it. Coney, you want some of this? Oh no, he took a smell of that and was like, nope, known for him. All right, so let's give this a taste. And let's see how we review this. Oh my God. It's almost like putting an Alka-Seltzer in my mouth. That's how much carbonation it's got. I feel like I'm drinking bread. Oh, man, I like bread, don't get me wrong, but not in a beer. It's not even sweet hardly. I mean, it's just a hint of sweet, but not much like the other beers have been. You know, it's like flavored sugar water. God, this is definitely got a barley malt flavor, what I call bread. I guess that's why it's natural, I guess. All right. So in keeping up with the tradition of the show, we are going to chug Natty Light, or back in the 70s and 80s, Natural Light. All right, here we go. Holy shit. Here it comes. Oh, God. Excuse me. Chugged it. Yeah. Got it down. Oh, disgusting. I'll pay for that later. Oh. Yeah, it's resting on top of my stomach right now. Oh, anyway. Yeah, I don't even know what I want to say about that beer. Oh, God. I feel like I just got a big old freaking bubble of... There it goes. All the bubbles coming out now. So you saw the carbonation in that. But anyway, thank you for joining me on Subpar Sunday. Again, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't been subscribing yet and just watching the show week to week. Make sure that you give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, leave me a comment. As always, get out there, support your local craft breweries and drink craft beer and not crappy domestic beer. Ugh. Here's the worst part. I have another can of this in my fridge just because I've learned now for Subpar Sunday, I have to have 2 cans on hand or 2 bottles on hand in case of a video fail. So that one's probably going to sit because I'm not drinking it. Anyway, have a good Sunday, everybody. Happy Sunday. Yeah, I just drank this. There's nothing happy about this. But anyway, have a good Sunday, everybody. And we'll see you next week for Subpar Sunday.